Hi, welcome to KSLAB. Today I want to tell you about the history of the t-shirt. The t-shirt is a piece of clothing that we all use on a daily basis, taking it for granted, but it is easy to forget that, relatively speaking, the t-shirt itself is quite young. The origins of the t-shirt date back to the late 19th century, when workers cut their overalls in half to keep cool in the hottest months of the year. The first t-shirt produced was invented between the Mexican-American War in 1898 and 1913, when the United States Navy began issuing them as standard t-shirts. It took until 1920 before the term t-shirt was introduced into the English dictionary, thanks to Scott Fitzgerald, who published the word in his novel The Side of Paradise. So early in September, Amory, writes Fitzgerald, provided with 6 suits summer underwear, 6 suits winter underwear, 1 sweater or t-shirt, 1 jersey, 1 overcoat, winter, etc., set out for New England, the land of schools. Although the t-shirt was created in the early 20th century, it was rare to see it worn as anything other than a tank top. Then came Marlon Brando and James Dean. In 1950, Marlon Brando wore a white t-shirt as Stanley Kowalski in A Streetcar Named Desire, only to be followed by James Dean in 1955's Rebel Without a Cause. Thanks to these two famous actors, sales soared and became in common use. Not only was the t-shirt as an outer garment becoming acceptable, but it was also being associated with a movement of rebellion. It was rebellious because t-shirts were actually undergarments. It was a tough political statement, says Dennis Noftrift, curator of the exhibition titled. When the 1950s arrived, a number of companies in Miami, Florida, began experimenting with garment decorating, but it was still an underdeveloped niche thing. Thomas E. Dewey, a Republican presidential candidate, created what was perhaps the first ever slogan t-shirt with his Do It With Dewey campaign, but outside of that, there haven't been many decorated t-shirt cases. Later, in the 1950s, one of the aforementioned printing companies, then known as Tropics Tags, held the original license to print Walt Disney characters. Around this time, people began making the profit that was to be made with graphic t-shirts, and by the 1960s, innovations in the field of printing, including the birth of screen printing, would help transform the printing industry shirt into what it is today. Modern screen printing owes a lot to the 1960s, which helped screen production adapt to mainstream demand. Michael Vasillantin, the man credited with simplifying the process. Together with his wife Fanny, Vasilton opened Vastex, a textile screen printing business in Philadelphia in 1960. Some of their first orders were bowling shirts, and after Vasillantin found himself struggling to meet the speed and scale of his customers' requests, he began to work on creating his own machinery. Among other inventions, Vasillantin in 1967 patented the double rotary printing machine, which sent revolutionary shockwaves in the industry. Here was a machine capable of printing on fabric with a higher speed and a lower margin of error than any other method available. Although graphic tees and t-shirt printing began in the 1950s and 60s, it wasn't until the 1970s that t-shirts became the powerful messaging platform we know them today. For this we can thank the punk movement. The growing popularity of rock band logos, coupled with the Vietnam War protests, really helped solidify the t-shirt as a messaging platform. Certainly, the t-shirt's fluid nature plays a part in its wide appeal. A t-shirt can be seen as high fashion or casual wear, disruptive or unassuming, all depending on how you wear it. If you have seen the video so far, thank you, and I urge you to follow the channel for similar contents. Put a comment or a like. See you soon. Many greetings from Carlo of KSLAB.